Have you ever sat at a table in a crowded cafe where laughter, music, and endless chatter fill the air, yet for one person, the world remains painfully quiet? Today's story will touch your heart. And before we dive into it, I want to say if you enjoy emotional and powerful stories that remind you of the beauty of humanity, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel because stories like this are meant to be shared and maybe one day they'll change a life. Now, let's begin. It was a Saturday evening in a small but cozy restaurant that carried the warmth of hanging lamps and the faint scent of roasted coffee. In the corner sat Emily, a 24-year-old woman with soft brown hair that fell across her shoulders, her hands nervously folded in her lap, her eyes scanning the door every time it opened. Emily had been born deaf. For her, silence wasn't a punishment, but a reality she had accepted with grace. Still, the world often wasn't so kind. Tonight was supposed to be special. It was her very first blind date, arranged by a friend who believed she deserved a chance at happiness. Dressed in a pale blue dress with a small necklace she had borrowed from her mother, Emily carried hope in her chest. She longed for someone who would look past her inability to hear and instead see her heart. Minutes turned into what felt like hours until finally a tall young man with neatly combed hair walked through the door. Emily straightened in her seat, her heart skipping. She recognized him from the photo her friend had shown. He spotted her too, hesitated slightly, then forced a polite smile as he approached. Emily greeted him warmly, her lips moving with practiced clarity, though her voice was soft and uncertain. She gestured for him to sit and her eyes lit up with the silent question every hopeful heart asks on a first meeting. Could this be the one? But within minutes, Emily felt a heaviness she could not ignore. The man seemed distracted, impatient, his eyes wandering toward the clock, his foot tapping. She tried to ask about his day, her words carefully formed, but his responses were short, dismissive, and cold. When she signed slowly, hoping he might attempt to follow along, his face twisted with irritation. "Look," he finally muttered, his voice low but sharp. "I didn't know you were like this. I can't do this. I'm sorry." His chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood up, his face flushed with embarrassment and discomfort. And just like that, he walked out, leaving Emily sitting alone at the table, her hands frozen, her chest hollow. Around her, the restaurant carried on. Couples laughed, children giggled, waiters bustled, but for Emily, the silence became unbearable. She lowered her eyes, blinking back tears, wishing she had not come, wishing she had not hoped so much. She wanted to disappear into the background to melt away from the cruel reminder that in a world full of voices, hers was one often left unheard. But what Emily didn't realize was that just 2 tables away, a man had been watching. His name was Daniel, a 32-year-old single father with kind blue eyes and a presence that seemed to radiate warmth. He had brought his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, for their little weekend dinner together. Something he always did to make her feel special since her mother had left years ago. Daniel noticed Emily the moment she walked in, her nervous fidgeting, the way she smoothed her dress, the glimmer of fragile hope in her eyes. He watched the date unfold, saw the man's impatience, his cruel rejection, and most of all, Emily's quiet devastation. Something stirred inside Daniel, a familiar ache of watching someone being treated as if they didn't matter. He remembered those early days raising Lily alone. The judgmental stares, the whispered doubts that he could ever be enough. And he couldn't sit still. When Emily finally wiped her tears, ready to leave, she froze at the gentle tap on her table. Startled, she looked up to see Daniel standing there, Lily peeking shyly from behind him. Emily blinked, confused, but then her heart stopped when Daniel raised his hands. Not in pity, not in awkwardness, but in fluent, gentle sign language. "You deserve better," he signed, his expression sincere, his movement steady as if he had spoken this language for years. Emily's eyes widened, tears filling them anew. But this time, they were not from pain. Someone understood, someone cared, and in that moment, a silent conversation began between two souls who had been waiting for something more than just love. They had been waiting for recognition, for someone who truly saw them. But this was only the beginning. Emily stared at Daniel as if time itself had slowed. Her heart trembled with disbelief. For years, she had lived in a world where even kind people often struggle to bridge the gap between their voices and her silence. Yet, here was a stranger. No, not just a stranger. A man with a gentle strength in his eyes and a daughter clutching his hand who spoke to her in the only language she fully understood. The words he signed, "You deserve better," echoed deeper than any spoken sentence ever could. Her lips parted as she signed back softly, her hands trembling, "Thank you." Daniel smiled warmly, pulling out the chair across from her and asking with a gesture if he could sit. Emily nodded, though her chest still carried the sharp ache of rejection, mingled now with the unexpected comfort of kindness. Daniel explained in sign language, though slowly, that he had learned it years ago for his daughter. Lily had been born partially deaf, and though she now wore a hearing aid that helped her pick up sounds, Daniel had dedicated himself to learning to communicate with her in every way possible. Emily's eyes flickered to Lily, who gave her a shy little wave and a sweet smile. Emily waved back, and in that instant, something in her heart softened as if a crack she thought could never heal had found light spilling in. They talked silently, beautifully for what felt like hours. Emily shared how difficult dating had been for her, how people often dismissed her before truly knowing her, how she sometimes wondered if she would ever find someone who valued her beyond her silence. Daniel listened intently, his expressions shifting with empathy, his hands moving gently to reassure her that she was not broken, not less, not invisible. He told her about Lily, about the challenges and joys of raising her alone, about the nights he had doubted himself, and the mornings he reminded himself he had to keep going for her sake. Emily found herself smiling, laughing, even something she hadn't expected to do tonight. For once, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. As the restaurant began to thin out, Daniel hesitated, then signed with a small smile. "Would you like to join us next time? Lily and we usually come here every week. Maybe we could make it our little tradition." Emily's chest tightened. She had walked into this restaurant with trembling hope and left nearly shattered. But now, here was a man who offered not just himself, but a family a chance at belonging. She nodded, her smile fragile yet radiant. Daniel's daughter clapped her little hands in delight, tugging Emily's fingers with innocent excitement, as if she already knew something. Emily herself was only beginning to realize that maybe love doesn't arrive in the ways we expect, but rather in the ways we need most. When Emily finally walked home that night, the air was crisp, the stars clear above her, and for the first time in years, she felt something more than longing. She felt possibility. Daniel and Lily had shown her that silence could be beautiful when shared, that kindness could heal wounds deeper than words, and that rejection was not the end. It was the clearing of space for someone better to walk in. So to you watching this right now, remember Emily's story. Remember that love and kindness can appear when you least expect it, sometimes from the table just next to yours. And if this story touched you, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel because stories like these remind us all that no matter who we are, no matter what we carry, we all deserve someone who signs to our heart, "You deserve better."